Lux presents Hollywood! Lever Brothers Company, the makers of Lux Flakes, bring you the Lux Radio Theater, starring Libby Collins, Frank Ford, Edward Payne, Helen Sorrell, Jim Gwynn, and introducing Miss Kit Lane. In Miracle on 34th Street. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your producer, Mr. William Keeley. Greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. Our Christmas present to you is the new Christmas classic of our time, Miracle on 34th Street. It's wrapped in a gay covering of laughter and tied with a bright ribbon of good humor. This is a wonderful story for the whole family, and perhaps some families may be gathered around a Christmas tree as they listen. Others will be putting up this happy sign of the season in a few days with lights and ornaments and the shining snow that can be made with Lux Flakes. Later, we'll tell you how to do this with Lux, but right now, it's curtain time for the play that proves, yes, there is a Santa Claus. Miracle on 34th Street.
Peanuts! Get your peanuts right here! Right here!
It's Thanksgiving Day in New York City. On a broad avenue adjoining Central Park, an annual event is being joyfully awaited. The spectacular parade presented by Macy's department store to herald in the Christmas season. Away from the crowd are two of Macy's public relations experts.
Oh, he's simply wonderful, Mrs. Walker. Just look at him on that float. The most realistic Santa Claus we've ever had. Why, he didn't even need any padding, did he?
Padding?
Why, didn't you notice his tummy? So round, so firm, so fully packed. Well, now that everything's under control, where on earth did you find him?
I don't know. I just turned around and there he was.
And you think that the man whose place he took was intoxicated?
With a breath that would knock over a reindeer.
Oh, just think if Mr. Macy had seen him.
What if Gimble had seen him? Competition between our stores is tough enough.
Ladies and gentlemen, the parade is about to begin!
Oh, well, the parade's starting. Let's stand on the curb.
Not I, Mr. Shellhammer. I'm going home to relax. Anyway, I can see it from there. I live just around the corner.
Oh, so you do. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, Mrs. Walker, and congratulations on finding the best Santa Claus in Macy's history.
Merry Christmas!
Certainly is a wonderful parade, Susan. Just look at that clown. Gosh, what a giant.
Giant, Mr. Gailey? There are no such thing as giants.
Well, not now, maybe, but in olden days.
Really, Mr. Gailey? Are you a liar?
Well, what about the giant that Jack killed?
Jack? Who's Jack?
You know, Jack and the Beanstalk?
I've never heard of that.
Well, it's a fairy tale.
Oh, one of those. I don't know any fairy tales.
Oh, your mother and father must have told you a fairy tale.
My mother thinks they are silly, and I don't know whether my father thinks they are or not. You see, I never met my father. My mother and father were divorced whenever I was a baby.
Well, that clown certainly looks like a giant to me.
People sometimes grow very big, but that is abnormal.
I'll bet your mother told you that, too.
Susan?
Come in!
Good afternoon. I'm Susan's mother. My maid said that...
Oh, hello, Mother. I was watching the parade. Mr. Gailey invited me.
Hello, darling.
Susan's told me quite a lot about you, Mrs. Walker.
She's told me quite a lot about you, too. The man in the front apartment.
Well, this is all part of a plot, Mrs. Walker. I'm very fond of Susie, but I also wanted to meet you.
At least you're frank.
There's old Santa Claus!
Don't even mention the name.
Why not, Mother?
Well, that Santa Claus you see is a last-minute substitute.
But why?
Oh, remember the way the janitor was last New Year's?
Oh my, tight as an owl.
I see Susie doesn't believe in Santa Claus either. No Santa Claus, no fairy tales, no fantasies of any kind, is that it?
That's right. I think we should be realistic and completely truthful with our children and not have them growing up and believing in a lot of legends and myths.
Well, that's the end of the parade. The acrobats were good.
They ought to be at those prices.
Mother, I've been thinking, it is Thanksgiving and there are only 2 of us. Couldn't we maybe invite Mr. Gailey?
Well,
Please, don't bother. I'll just have a sandwich or something.
But we have such a big turkey.
well, that's not it, dear. I'm sure Mr. Gailey has other plans.
No, he hasn't. Have you?
Well, to be quite honest and truthful with the child, I must admit I haven't any other plans.
Please, Mother, please. Did I ask all right, Mr. Gailey?
Susie, shh.
You asked fine, Susan. Dinner is at 3, Mr. Gailey.
Susie, you asked just right. I'll see you at 3.
It worked.
Hello, Mrs. Walker?
Yes, Mr. Shellhammer?
Your maid said you were at Thanksgiving dinner, but I just had to tell you, your Santa Claus was stupendous.
Susie, thank you.
Mr. Macy himself wants him to be our toy department Santa Claus.
Oh, fine. Susan, can you hire him?
Oh, I already have. And he's a born salesman. I just feel it.
Good. We'll talk about it in the morning. Thanks for calling, Mr. Shellhammer.
Here he is, Mr. Shellhammer.
Thank you.
Here's Santa Claus.
Thank you, Alfred. Thank you. Good morning, Santa Claus.
Good morning.
Now, before you go to the toy department, here's a list of toys that we have to push. You know, things we're overstocked on. Now, you'll find that a great many children will be undecided as to what they want for Christmas. And when that happens, you immediately suggest one of these items. Do you understand?
I certainly do.
Fine. Now, take the list, and Alfred here will show you to your throne in the toy department. And don't forget, you're working for Macy's.
Are you really Santa Claus?
Well, of course I am. What do you want for Christmas, little boy?
I want a fire engine with a real hose that squirts real water, and I won't do it in the house. I'll only do it in the backyard. I promise.
Well, and I promise you'll get your fire engine.
You see, Mama? I told you he'd get me one.
Oh, that's just fine. That's just dandy. You wait here, Mortimer. Mama wants to thank Santa Claus, too.
Yes, madam.
Say, what's the matter with you?
No. What's the trouble?
I told you before, didn't I? The kid wants a fire engine, but there isn't one to be had anywhere in town. Macy's ain't got any. Gimble's ain't got any. Nobody's got any. My feet are killing me, and you say, okay, he gets a fire engine.
But you can get those fire engines at Schoenfeld's. Lexington Avenue, only $4.50. A wonderful bargain.
Schoenfeld?
Yes?
Hey, I don't get it.
Oh, I follow the toy market very closely.
Macy's sending people to other stores?
Yes.
Are you kidding?
Well, the one important thing is to make the children happy. Whether Macy's or somebody else sells the toy doesn't matter. Don't you feel that way?
Who, me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, sure. Only I didn't know Macy's did. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Who's next, please? Right this way to see Santa Claus. All right, little girl, you're next.
Of course, little girl. You want some roller skates? Well, you shall have them, too.
Mama, he's going to bring me some roller skates.
And he has some fine skates here at Macy's, haven't you, Santa Claus?
Oh, they're good skates, all right, but not quite good enough. Now, I left some really wonderful roller skates at Gimble's. I'm sure Gimble's has just what this little girl wants.
Mr. Shellhammer. Are you Mr. Shellhammer?
Gimble's? Gimbles, that's just what he said.
But the sales lady said I should speak to you.
Gimbles.
I just wanted to congratulate you and Macy's on this wonderful new stunt you're pulling.
Gimbles?
Imagine a big outfit like Macy's putting the spirits of Christmas ahead of the commercial.
Gimbles.
From now on, I'm going to be a regular Macy's customer. All right, Mortimer, we're going!
Gimbles!
And there's your toy department over there, Mr. Gailey.
Well, you certainly know all about Macy's store, don't you, Susan?
Well, that's because my mother works here. But I still think it's silly bringing me here to see Santa Claus.
Well, I just feel that when you've talked to him, you might feel different about him.
Oh, gee, Mr. Gailey. I'm certainly willing to try.
Well, come in, everyone. Come right this way to see Santa
Well,
Claus.
well, what a fine young lady, eh? What's your name, little girl?
Susan Walker. What's yours?
Mine, Kris Kringle. I'm Santa Claus. You don't believe that, eh?
You see, my mother's Miss Walker, the lady who hired you.
Oh.
But I must say, you're the best-looking Santa Claus I've ever seen.
Really?
Your beard, for instance, it doesn't have one of those things that, go over your ears.
Well, that's because it's real.
What?
Just like I'm really Santa Claus. Go ahead, pull it.
Oh, my goodness, it is real.
Oh, yes. And now, what would you like me to bring you for Christmas?
Nothing, thank you. Whatever I want, my mother will get, as long as it's sensible and does not cost too much.
That's quite right, Susan.
Oh, hello, Mother.
Hello, Mr. Gailey.
Mrs. Walker?
Hello. The explanation for all this is very simple. Your maid's mother sprained her ankle. She had to go home, so she asked me to bring Susie down to you. As long as we were here, I figured we might as well say hello to Santa Claus.
He has real whiskers, Mother.
Susan, would you stand over there a minute?
If you want me to.
I shouldn't have brought Susie here to see Santa, is that it?
Now you're making me feel completely heartless.
I'm sorry.
Don't you see? I tell Susan that Santa Claus is a myth, and you show her a very convincing old man with real whiskers. Whom is she to believe?
Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
When Susan was a baby, her father and I were divorced, and ever since then, I protected my child by teaching her reality. You see, if you don't believe in fairy tales and fantasy, you can never be hurt or disillusioned.
We were talking about Susie, Mrs. Walker.
And I must ask you to let me raise her as I see fit. All right, dear, the store's going to close soon. We'll run along to my office.
Alfred said you wanted to see me, Mrs. Walker.
Yes, come in. I'd be grateful if you'd please tell Susan that you're not really Santa Claus and that there actually is no such person.
Oh, Miss Walker, not only is there such a person, but here I am to prove it.
No. You misunderstand. I want you to tell her the truth. What's your real name?
Kris Kringle, and I always tell the truth. Susan, I'll bet you're in the first grade.
Second grade.
I mean your real name.
That is my real name. My goodness, the second grade.
It's a progressive school.
Oh, a progressive school.
Very well. I have your employment card right here. I'll look it up on that.
That's a very cute dress you have on, Susan.
It's from Macy's. We get 10% off.
So, you always tell the truth, do you? Look at your employment card.
Name, Kris Kringle. Address, Brooks Memorial Home, Great Neck, Long Island. You may call the home if you care to confirm that, Miss Walker. It's a home for elderly gentlemen.
Would you also like me to confirm this?
What's that?
Date of birth, as old as my tongue and a bit older than my teeth. Place of birth, North Pole. Now, really.
I believe you doubt me, Mrs. Walker.
And this tops everything. Next of kin.
Oh, that.
Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen. I'm sorry to have to do this, Mr.
Kringle.
But the Santa Claus we had 2 years ago is back in town, and I feel that we owe it to him.
Have I done something wrong?
No. It's just that we feel... Excuse me. Hello?
Oh, this is Mr. Shellhammer, Mrs. Walker. Drop whatever you're doing. Mr. Macy wants to see us immediately.
Oh, I'll be right up. I'm afraid I'll have to be very abrupt with you. I have to see Mr. Macy. You'll be paid for the full week, Mr. Kringle, and I'll send your check to that address.
Come in, Mrs. Walker. Mr. Shellhammer.
Thank you, Mr. Macy.
Now, about this new policy you two initiated.
Oh?
Macy's Santa Claus sending customers to Gimble's.
But I can explain everything, Mr. Macy.
You don't have to explain a thing. Just look at my desk. 42 telegrams and over 500 phone calls. Grateful parents expressing undying gratitude to Macy's department store.
You don't say.
From now on, not only will our Santa Claus continue in this manner, but every salesperson in the entire store.
You mean that if we haven't got what the customer asks for, we're
to send him to where he can get it? No high-pressuring and forcing a customer to take something he doesn't really want.
Oh, I think that's wonderful, Mr. Macy.
Why, we'll be known as the helpful store, the friendly store, the store that places public service ahead of profits. Consequently, we'll make more profits than ever. As for you, Mrs. Walker, Mr. Shellhammer, you'll find a more practical expression of my gratitude in your Christmas envelope.
Oh, thank you.
And tell that wonderful Santa Claus I won't forget him either. Matter of fact, I'll tell him myself in the morning.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Macy.
Good night.
Good night, Mr. Macy.
And thank you again, sir. Imagine, a bonus.
Yes.
Wow. What's the matter with you?
Mr. Shellhammer, I just fired him.
Who?
Santa Claus.
Oh, no. No, you couldn't have.
But I did. He's crazy, Mr. Shellhammer. He really thinks he is Santa Claus.
I don't care if he thinks he's the Easter Bunny. You find him. You find him! Find him!
Act 2 of Miracle on 34th Street will continue in a moment. Well, Helen, have you given Santa your Christmas list?
Yes, indeed, Will. And number 1 on my list is a pair of Chinese pajamas with a 3/4 coat and little upstanding collar, just like the ones Marta Torrin wore in Rogue's Regiment.
Perhaps you'd better have the wardrobe mistress of Universal International show Santa what you mean.
Well, I'm sure Dick Powell or Steve McNally could give him a good description. They found Marta very glamorous in this modern story of the French Foreign Legion.
And what a villain Vincent Price is in Rogue's Regiment. I was on the edge of my seat through the whole picture, and you talk about a pair of pajamas.
Well, they were very special. Marta liked them so well, she had 4 pairs made for her personal wardrobe, and she was delighted when they told her she could lux them.
That's about the easiest care in the world, especially now with the new tiny diamonds of Lux. Another triumph of the famous Lever Laboratories. These tiny diamonds are so much faster, they burst into suds the instant water touches them. Yes, they make wonderfully rich suds that last and last.
Don't colors look marvelous when they're luxed? So fresh and new. No wonder smart girls say they won't risk wrong washing methods.
Tests prove that gentle care with Lux Flakes really makes a difference. Lux slips and nighties stay new-looking 3 times as long. Oh! And that's just like getting 3 pretty slips for the price of 1.
A really thoughtful Santa would put a box of Lux Flakes in every lingerie gift next Friday night.
And now we return with Act 2 of Miracle on 34th Street. It was a frantic few hours that Doris spent last night, rustling out to the Brooks Memorial Home in Long Island and assuring Kris Kringle that Macy's wanted him back as Santa Claus. Now Kris is again presiding over the crowded department store, while in her office, Doris and Mr. Shellhammer...
Don't you understand, Mr. Shellhammer? That old man with the nice whiskers insists that he is Santa Claus. Why, he's out of his mind. What if he should have a fit or something? Oh, no, I've got to tell Mr. Macy.
But maybe he's only a little crazy. Like painters or composers or some of those men in Washington. Anyway, you can't be sure until he's examined. We'll send him to Sawyer.
Sawyer?
In personnel, she's paid to examine employees, isn't she? And now, by the way, what do you think of this?
What is it?
A full-page ad Macy's is running in tomorrow's newspaper.
Macy's is running it? But it's all about the other stores. Gimble's and Saks.
I know. Mr. Macy's idea to help our customers find what they want. Ugh, it's revolting, isn't it?
That Santa Claus certainly has started something. Oh, well, I'll get a hold of him on his lunch hour and send him up to see Sawyer.
So I changed my clothes, Miss Sawyer, and came right up.
Oh, well, then that's your own beard, huh?
Oh, yes.
Interesting complex in back of there. Why do you carry a cane?
Always carry a cane, Miss Sawyer. I carved this cane out of a rudder from one of my old sleighs.
Who's the first president of the United States?
Oh, give me a difficult one, like who was vice president under James Monroe?
I'm conducting this examination.
Oh, the answer is Daniel D. Tompkins.
Oh.
Yes. You're a rather nervous woman, aren't you, Miss Sawyer?
Huh?
Tell me, do you get enough sleep?
My personal habits are no concern of yours. Now, what hand am I holding up?
Right hand.
How many fingers do you see?
3. Oh, dear. You bite your nails, too.
Oh. Stand up. Now, feet together, arms extended.
Muscular coordination tests? I've taken dozens of these tests. Tell me, Miss Sawyer, are you happy at home?
What? Oh, that will be all, Mr. Kringle. The examination is over.
Thank you.
And it may interest you to know I've been happily married for 22 years. Very happily married.
Delighted to hear it. Goodbye, Miss Sawyer.
Miss Pall!
Yes, ma'am.
Get Mrs. Walker on the phone.
Yes, ma'am, but your husband, Miss Sawyer, he's called 4 times already.
You tell my big fat husband to shut up and mind his own business.
Here's Mrs. Walker, ma'am.
Hello.
Oh, I just needed to speak with you, Miss Sawyer.
Oh.
There's a Dr. Pierce stopping by this afternoon after 3.
Who's Dr. Pierce?
He's the physician at the Brooks home where Mr. Kringle lives. I told him we might discuss Mr. Kringle's case with him.
Well, there's hardly a point in discussing it, Mrs. Walker. Obviously, the old man should be discharged.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate you giving us your time, Dr. Pierce.
Not at all. As a matter of fact, I was going to call you today. I had a feeling long about now you people would be wondering about Kris.
Oh, Dr. Pierce, Miss Sawyer.
How do you do? Mr. Shellhammer, Mrs. Walker. After giving Mr. Kringle a comprehensive examination, it's my considered opinion that he should be dismissed immediately and sent to a mental institution.
Now, just a minute, Miss Sawyer.
He's deluded, saying he's Santa Claus.
Oh, I don't agree, Miss Sawyer. People are only institutionalized when they're a danger to themselves or other people. His is a delusion for good. I found he only wants to be friendly and helpful.
That's what I feel, too.
Why, there are thousands of people walking around with similar delusions, living perfectly normal lives in every other respect.
His whole manner suggests aggressiveness. Look at the way he carries that cane. Mrs. Walker, naturally I can't discharge that loony, so when he exhibits his maniacal tendencies, please realize the responsibility is completely yours.
Well, I'm right back where I started.
No, you're not. After listening to Dr. Pierce, I feel perfectly confident.
Mrs. Walker, I assure you, Kris Kringle has no maniacal tendencies.
But if there's the slightest of his causing any trouble...
What trouble?
All that needs happen is a policeman asking his name. Kris Kringle, clang, clang. And Macy's Santa Claus ends up in a psychopathic ward.
Well, you can prevent that very simply. There must be someone at the store who can rent him a room. Then they could both go to and come to work together. I'd just as soon he avoided that long train ride to Long Island anyway.
You mean sort of take custody of him?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Mr. Kringle would agree to that?
I'm sure he'll agree. Bye-bye now.
Well, I'm sure you made a wise decision. Now, let's see. Who could rent him a room?
Well, your son's away at school. What about his room?
Oh, I don't mind. I'd be glad to. But I'm positive Mrs. Shellhammer wouldn't like it. Say, I have an idea. We always have martinis before dinner. I'll make them double strength tonight. Maybe after a couple of them, she'll be more receptive to the idea.
But Kris is through work at 6 o'clock. What about the in-between time?
You take him home for dinner, and I'll call you as soon as my wife's plastered. Feeling gay.
I'm not sure that this is a good idea.
Really, Mrs. Walker, if I'm willing to let my wife have a big headache in the morning, the least you could do is have a little headache tonight.
All right.
I'm glad you're going to have dinner with us and Mr. Gailey, Mr. Kringle.
Oh, thank you, Susan.
Shall I tell you what I did at school today?
Oh, by all means. Any games?
Yes, and a very silly game, too.
Oh?
They played zoo, and each child was supposed to be an animal. And whenever I came over to Homer, he was supposed to be a zookeeper. And he said, "What kind of animal are you?" And I said, "I am not an animal, I'm a girl." And he had the nerve to say, "Only animals are allowed here. Goodbye." So I had to play by myself.
Oh, but Susan, they were just pretending.
But that's what makes the game so silly.
Well, of course, in order to play games, you'll need imagination.
Oh, sure. That's when you see things that aren't really there.
Well, that can be caused by other things, too. But you know, to me, imagination is a place all by itself. Now, you've heard of the French nation,
Yes.
And the British nation?
Yes.
Well, this is the imagination. A very interesting place, too. Now, how would you like to be able to make snowballs in summertime, eh?
What?
Or be at the Statue of Liberty in the morning, and in the afternoon, fly south with a flock of geese?
Oh, well, I'm sure I quite like it, but...
Oh, it's very simple. Very. Well, anyway, look here. The next time they play zoo, you can be a monkey.
But I don't know how to be a monkey.
Oh, don't you? Oh, I'll show you. Now, first, you bend over a little, like this. See?
Like this?
Yes. Then let your arms hang loose. See? Yeah, that's fine. Fine. Now, put your hand over here and start scratching. See? There. That's it. That's it. That's excellent, Susan. That's as fine a bit of scratching as I've ever seen. Yeah. Now, you start chattering.
Chattering?
Yes. Now, listen. See? And you have to keep scratching. Now, then, let's do this together. See? Chatter. And scratch. And scratch. And chatter. That's fine, Susan. Fine. You're doing beautifully, beautifully, yes.
What's going on here?
Oh, we were just having our first lesson in pretending. Doing quite well at it, too. That's right. Go on now. No, you're not a goose. You mustn't be a goose. You're a monkey.
Mr. Kringle, Mrs. Walker just happened to mention that they're looking for a room for you here in town.
That's right.
Well, I was just thinking, I'm all alone in my apartment. Twin beds, plenty of room. If you'd like to move in with me, I'd be only too happy to have you.
That's awfully nice of you.
You could ride to and from work every day with Mrs. Walker.
Yes. Give me a chance to really talk things over with her. Mr. Gailey, it's a deal.
Good. We'll drive out after dinner and get your things. Hello? Oh, yes, just a moment. Mrs. Walker! It's Mr. Shellhammer?
Hello, Hello, Mr. Shellhammer.
Yes, just a moment. Mrs. Shellhammer wants to talk to you. I made the martinis triple strength, and she feels wonderful. Here you are, then.
Hello? Hello?
No, dear.
Oh, thank you, darling. Hello.
No, dear. Here. There.
Oh, darling, how silly of me. Hello. Oh, we'd love to have Santa Claus come stay with us. I think it would be simply charming.
Oh, so do I, Mrs. Shellhammer. Just a moment. Mr. Kringle, it's Mrs. Shellhammer on the phone. They have the loveliest room, and they would be so happy if you'd stay with them.
Oh, that's very sweet of them. Oh, please, thank them very much. But I'm going to stay with Mr. Gailey.
Mr. Gailey?
I think I'd better check on the meat.
Susan? Susan, you still awake?
Yeah.
I've just come in to say goodnight, that's all. Now, look here. About Christmas, there must be something you'd like for Christmas?
Well, I've certainly thought of something, Mr. Kringle.
You have? Well, tell me, what is it?
It's right over here on the night table.
Oh?
I tore this page out of a magazine. It's a picture of a house.
Oh, that's what you want, is it? A doll's house, colonial architecture.
It's not a doll's house. It's a real house.
A real house?
Yes, and if you're really Santa Claus, you can get it for me.
Now. Wait a minute, Susie. What could you possibly do with a big house?
Well, I live in it with my mother. Have a backyard with a big tree to put a swing on it, and a garden, and oh well, why even discuss it?
Susie, could I keep this picture just in case?
I guess so.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Well, Mr. Gailey's waiting for me. Good night, monkey.
Good night, Mr. Kringle.
Take whatever bed you want, Mr. Kringle.
You're really very kind. Tell me, Mr. Gailey, what is it you do for a living, eh?
Oh, I'm a lawyer. Hayslip, Sherman, and Mackenzie.
Oh, and you like living here in the city?
Well, it's convenient. But someday I'd like to get a place on Long Island.
Huh.
Well, not a big house, just one of those junior partner deals around Manhasset.
What of those little, colonial houses, eh?
Yeah, a little colonial house would be swell.
Good. Yes, you're quite fond of Mrs. Walker, aren't you?
A lot of good it does me. She lives in a cast iron shell that's just a little difficult to penetrate.
Oh, well, you must try a little harder, Mr. Gailey. You know, Miss Walker and that child are a couple of lost souls, and it's up to us to help them out. See?
No.
Yes. Well, shall I turn out the light?
Oh, no. I'm not going to be cheated out of this. You know, all my life I've wondered about it, and now I'm going to find out. Tell me, does Santa Claus sleep with his whiskers outside or inside the covers?
Well, outside, of course. Outside, by all means. The cold air makes them grow.
Well, thank you very much.
Come in, Mrs. Walker. Come in.
Thank you, Mr. Macy. I've just heard something very exciting.
You have? Well, let me tell you something very exciting. Our policy of being kind to customers has tripled our sales. Now, what do you think of that?
Oh, that's wonderful, Mr. Macy. And Gimble's thinks it's wonderful, too.
Gimble's?
Gimble's are adopting the same policy.
Well, is that so?
And it gives me an idea. As long as Gimble's are doing the same thing, why not some pictures for the newspaper?
Pictures?
Yes. You and Gimble shaking hands.
Shaking hands? R.H. Macy and Gimble?
Well, yes.
Yes, why not? With Santa Claus. Oh, it's a great idea, Mrs. Walker. Ooh, Macy and Gimble shaking hands.
Right this way for a picture.
That's enough pictures, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Well, Gimble.
Come on, R.H. Now we'll go over to my store and get some really good pictures.
Just a minute. I have something here for Santa Claus. Here you are, Mr. Kringle. A check in appreciation of all you've done.
Mr. Macy? Why, that's most kind of you.
I didn't think you were that generous, R.H. That's quite a check. What are you going to do with it, Mr. Kringle?
Well, I have a friend, a Dr. Pierce at the Brooks home where I live. He needs a new X-ray machine.
Oh, buy the machine through the store. A 10% discount.
Nonsense. Come on over to Gimble's. We'll furnish it at cost.
Oh, keep it up, keep it up. At this rate, my friend will have a whole new hospital.
How'd the pictures turn out, Mr. Kringle?
Fine, Alfred, fine. How about a game of checkers during lunch, eh?
Oh, not today, Kris. I don't feel so good.
Oh? What's the matter, Alfred?
Nothing much. You remember I was telling you how I like to play Santa Claus at the Y and give out packages to the kids?
Yeah?
Well, I was telling Miss Sawyer about it, and she says that's very bad, that psychologically it's all wrong.
Oh? To be nice to children?
Well, she says guys who play Santa Claus do it because when they was young, they must have done something bad, and now they do something that is good to make up for it, see? It's what she calls a guilt complex.
Alfred, what else has she found wrong with you?
Nothing much. Just that I hate my father. I didn't know it, but she says I do.
Excuse me.
Hey, ain't you gonna have lunch?
Later. Right now, I have an appointment with Miss Sawyer.
What do you mean, breaking into my office like this?
Are you a licensed psychiatrist?
What business is it of yours?
I have respect for psychiatry and great contempt for meddling amateurs who go about practicing it.
Oh, shut up.
You ought to be horsewhipped, taking a boy like Alfred and filling him up with complexes and phobias and every
I think I'm better equipped to judge that than you.
Just because Alfred wants to be kind to children? You're telling me he has a guilt complex?
Yes, having the same delusion you couldn't possibly understand.
Oh.
And don't you wave that cane at me.
Either you stop analyzing Alfred, or I'll go straight to Mr. Macy and tell him what a contemptible fraud you are.
Oh, go on, get out of here. Get out of here before I have you thrown out.
There's only one way to handle a person like you. Maybe this'll knock some sense into you.
Oh, help my head. Oh, my head.
Good day, Miss Sawyer.
Miss Pall, get the police. Get Mrs. Walker. Get me the psychopathic ward in Bellevue Hospital.
You can see Mr. Kringle now, Mr. Gailey.
Thank you, nurse. Hello, Kris.
Hello, Fred.
Kris, I've been speaking to the doctors. They said they've given you some tests.
Oh, yes. Same old tests.
Except this time you failed to pass them. Kris, you deliberately failed. Why?
Why? Well, because I had great hopes, Fred. I had a feeling Miss Walker was beginning to believe in me. And now I discover she was only humoring me all the time.
But this wasn't Doris's idea at all. Miss Sawyer sent you up here before she even knew about it.
But why didn't she come to me and explain things?
Because she didn't want to hurt you.
Oh. Well, it's not just Miss Walker. It's, well, now, take Miss Sawyer. She's contemptible, dishonest, deceitful. Yet she's out there, and I'm in here. Well, if that's normal, I don't want it.
But you can't just think of yourself, Kris. What happens to you matters to a lot of other people. Well, people like me, who believe in you and what you stand for, and people like Susie, who are just beginning to. Kris, you're letting us down.
Afraid maybe you're right. Oh, of course you're right. I ought to be ashamed of myself. Come on, let's get out of here.
Well, now, wait a minute. You flunked your mental examination, but good.
Oh, yes, so I did. Well, then, anyway, you're a lawyer. You fix it.
Well, hey, look, I can't just barge in there and...
Now, I won't let you down, and you won't let me down.
Kris, now take it easy. Look, there'll have to be a hearing. If you're going to be committed, it has to be before a judge.
Well?
Well, if I can do anything at all, it'll have to be in a courtroom. Now sit tight, Kris. I'll get an idea. I have to get an idea.
You sent for me, Mr. Macy.
I certainly did, Sawyer. I brought my family to our department store to see our Santa Claus. And our Santa Claus isn't there. He's in Bellevue.
Yes, Mr. Macy.
Because he's a lunatic?
Yes, sir, a lunatic.
Lunatic my foot! Now listen to me, Sawyer. You get that case dropped right away, or you'll have another lump to match the one he gave you.
But it's out of my hands. Mr. Kringle goes to court in the morning.
Well, just see that he's back in the toy department by afternoon. Now, get out of here!
Oh, Mr. Gailey! Mr. Gailey!
Yep.
I've been looking all over for you. I'm Sawyer.
Ah, so you're Sawyer.
Yes. I was speaking to the court clerk, and he said you represent Mr. Kringle. Well, I represent Mr. Macy.
Well, then I'll see you in court.
No. That's what I wanted to speak to you about. Now, Mr. Macy would like to drop the whole case right now. You see, we're most anxious to avoid any publicity.
No publicity, huh?
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Well, then you'll cooperate?
You know something, Sawyer? You've just given me the idea I've been searching for.
Oh, good.
If I'm going to win this case, I'm going to have public opinion and plenty of it, and publicity is just the way to do it. Thanks. And, so long, Sawyer!
Mr. Gailey! Mr. Gailey!
Look at these newspapers, Kris. Evening Dispatch. Doctors doubt sanity of Santa who launched Goodwill campaign.
Oh, my.
A Daily Bulletin. Macy's Santa Claus to have lunacy hearing.
Oh, what's this one?
New York Express.
Is Kris Kringle crazy? Court case coming. Kiddies cry calamity.
You've driven the United Nations clear back to page 5. Well, get a good night's sleep, Kris. We go before Judge Harper at 10 tomorrow morning.
Our stars will return with Act 3 of Miracle on 34th Street in a moment. When a new player signs a contract with 20th Century Fox, she soon gets acquainted with Miss Helen Sorrell, head dramatic coach. Helen, you like to watch your pupils perform in motion pictures?
Oh, of course, Will, because I take a personal interest in them. I'm especially proud of Betty Grable and her new picture, When My Baby Smiles at Me.
Betty's become a real fine dramatic actress.
She certainly has.
She and Dan Daly are magnificent as a couple of vaudeville hoofers.
And Betty's costumes in When My Baby Smiles at Me gave me a thrill, and I was amazed at how many things the wardrobe department washed with Lux Flakes. It reminded me of my theatrical days when I was on the road and lived in a couple of trucks.
A box of Lux Flakes in each?
That's absolutely true, Will. I was never without it in my hotel or at the theater.
Well then, you probably discovered that the new tiny diamonds of Lux are more wonderful than ever. They're so much faster and richer, do more for you too. They remove soil, which other types of suds can't, leaving things cleaner and fresher.
And Lux Flakes keep colors lovely.
You're right there. That's why it's foolish to risk wrong washing methods that may fade colors. Actual tests show that with gentle Lux Flakes care, colors stay lovely up to 3 times as long.
Uh-huh.
That's a good tip for boys who get nice shirts and sweaters for Christmas.
Ah.
Right you are. We return now to the 3rd act of Miracle on 34th Street. For a few weeks, a jolly elderly man named Kris Kringle has been working minor miracles as Macy's Santa Claus. But now, his sanity has been seriously questioned, and in a crowded courtroom, Judge Harper listens patiently as the assistant district attorney summons Kris to the witness stand.
Now, this is not a trial, Mr. Kringle. This is just a hearing, so you don't have to answer any questions. Now then, where do you live, please?
Well, it seems to me that that's what this hearing will decide, won't it?
Mr. Kringle, do you believe that you are Santa Claus?
Of course I do.
That's all, Your Honor. The state rests its case.
Well, Mr. Gailey?
Your Honor, Mr. Merrick contends my client is not sane because he believes he is Santa Claus.
An entirely logical conclusion.
Anyone who thinks he is Santa Claus is crazy.
Your Honor, you believe yourself to be Judge Harper, yet no one questions your sanity because you are Judge Harper.
Mr. Kringle is the subject of this sanity hearing, not I.
Well, Your Honor, I intend to prove that Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus.
Mr. Mara, I thought you said this was a cut-and-dried sanity hearing.
I thought it was, Your Honor.
In view of Mr. Gailey's statement, I'll have to review the entire background of this case. Court's adjourned until tomorrow morning.
Hello, Doris. Oh, I'm sorry I'm late, but get ready. We're really gonna celebrate tonight.
What are we celebrating?
Well, didn't you read the papers? Santa's mouthpiece throws bombshell at New York Supreme Court?
Oh, Fred, you're not really serious about this. You can't possibly prove that Kris Kringle is Santa Claus.
Well, you saw Mr. Macy and Gimble shake hands. That wasn't possible either.
What does your firm have to say about it? Hayslip and Mackenzie and the rest of them.
That I've jeopardized their prestige, and either I drop this impossible case or they'll drop me.
See?
So I beat them to it. I quit.
Fred, you threw away a career because of a sentimental whim?
Well, I'll open my own office.
And what kind of clients will you get?
Probably a lot of people like Kris, who are being pushed around. And that's the only fun in law, anyway. Doris, look, don't you have any faith in me at all?
No, it's not a question of faith. It's just common sense.
But faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to. It's not just Kris that's on trial. It's everything he stands for. Human kindness and love and dignity.
Oh, Fred, listen to me. We've seen each other a lot the last couple of weeks. I've become fond of you. We've talked about some wonderful plans, haven't we? And then you do this. Go on an idealistic binge, throw away your security, and expect me to be happy about it?
And I expect too much. Is that it? Well, that's that, I guess. Good night, darling.
Hello? Oh, yes, this is Mr. Mara. Well, can't it wait until tomorrow? I'm eating Who's been subpoenaed? Well, how do you think I feel about it? I'll see you tomorrow.
Who's that, dear?
R.H. Macy's been subpoenaed.
Oh, my.
Those reporters, they make me look like a sadistic monster who likes nothing better than to drown pussycats and to tear wings off butterflies.
Quiet, dear. Tommy's still awake.
Oh, yeah.
It'd just break his heart if he knew what his daddy is doing.
I'm doing my job as assistant district attorney.
Well, I'm not so sure that I agree with them. Mr. Kringle looks like a very nice old man, and I don't see why you have to keep persecuting him.
I'm not persecuting him. I'm prosecuting him. I like the old man, too, but there's nothing I can do about it.
You know something, Thomas? Sometimes I wish I married a butcher or a plumber.
Well, if I lose this case, it's very possible you'll get your wish. R.H. Macy, I wonder what he's gonna pull tomorrow.
Proceed with the witness, Mr. Gailey.
Now then, Mr. Macy, if you recognize the defendant, please tell us who he is.
Why, Kris Kringle, of course.
And do you believe him to be of sound mind?
Sound mind? I wish I had a dozen just like him.
Mr. Macy, you are under oath. Do you believe this man is Santa Claus?
Well, now, that's rather a delicate...
Think of those headlines tomorrow. Macy admits his Santa Claus is a fraud.
You keep out of this, Gimble!
What did you say?
Oh, nothing, Your Honor, nothing.
Well, I wish you would. Is this man Santa Claus?
Yes. In my opinion, he most certainly is.
Your Honor, there is no such person as Santa Claus, and everybody knows it.
Can you prove there isn't any?
I won't even try. I'll not waste this court's time with such childish nonsense. Your Honor, the prosecution requests an immediate ruling from this court. Is there or is there not a Santa Claus?
Well, now, The court will take a short recess to consider the question.
Hello, Henry.
Why, Charlie, what are you doing here?
Can't an old friend visit you in your chambers? And if you ask me, you never needed a friend like you do now.
This Kringle case? Well, I certainly don't see what they're making a fuss about.
Henry, that's Santa Claus you've got out there on trial for lunacy. This case is dynamite. You're coming up for re-election soon.
Charlie, you know what happened last night? Martha brought the grandchildren over, and they wouldn't kiss Grandpa. They wouldn't even talk to me.
Well, you see what I mean? If you rule there is no Santa Claus, you better start looking for that chicken farm right now.
I'm a responsible judge. How can I seriously rule that there is a Santa Claus?
Because of what happens if you don't. Kids read about it and they don't hang up their stockings. Now, what happens to all the toys that are supposed to be in those stockings? Nobody buys them. The toy manufacturers have to lay off employees. By now, you've got the AFFL and the CIO against you. Yes, and they're going to say it with votes, see? Oh, and the department stores are going to love you, too. Yes, sir, Henry. And what about the Salvation Army? They've got a Santa Claus on every street corner. They take in a lot of money to help the poor. But go ahead, Henry. You go in there and rule there isn't any Santa Claus. But if you do, you can count on getting just 2 votes, your own and that district attorney's out there.
1 vote, Charlie. He's a Republican. Ah, well, let's get this over with. The question of Santa Claus seems to be largely a matter of opinion. The tradition of American justice demands a broad and unprejudiced view of such a controversial matter.
But, Your Honor...
This court, therefore, intends to keep its mind open. We shall ask for evidence on either side.
But the burden of proof clearly rests on my opponent. Can he produce any evidence to support his view?
If Your Honor please, I can. Will Thomas Mara please take the stand?
Who, me?
No, Thomas Mara, Jr. I believe he and his mother are both in court today.
Hi, Papa.
Hi. Tommy, you know the difference between telling the truth and telling a lie, don't you?
Gosh, everyone knows you shouldn't tell a lie, especially in court.
Proceed, Mr. Gailey.
Tommy, do you believe in Santa Claus?
I sure do. He gave me a brand new sled last year.
Now, what does Santa Claus look like, Tommy?
Oh, well, there he is, sitting right over there.
Your Honor, I protest.
Overruled.
Tell me, Tommy, why are you so sure there's a Santa Claus?
Because my papa told me so. Didn't you, Papa?
And you believe your papa, don't you, Tommy? He's a very honest man.
Of course he is. My papa wouldn't tell me anything that wasn't so. Would you, Papa?
Thank you, Tommy. You can go back to your mother now.
See you later, Papa.
You certainly will. Your Honor.
Don't forget, Santa Claus. This year I want a football helmet.
Don't worry, Tommy. You'll get it.
Mr. Kringle, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry, sir.
Your Honor, the state of New York concedes the existence of a Santa Claus. But in so conceding, we demand that Mr. Gailey stop representing and presenting personal opinion as evidence. I insist he must submit authoritative proof that Mr. Kringle here is the one and only Santa Claus.
Well, Mr. Gailey, are you prepared to show that Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus on the basis of unprejudiced authority?
Well, sir, no, not now. I need a little time.
Why not now?
Tomorrow, Your Honor?
Very well. Court's adjourned until tomorrow morning.
Oh, brother.
Now come, Susan dear, finish your supper.
But I can't, Mother. All those things they're saying in the newspapers about Mr. Kringle and Mr. Gailey.
They're having this trial because he says he's Santa Claus.
He is so. He's so kind and nice and jolly. He's like no one else I know. He has to be Santa Claus.
You know something? I think perhaps you're right.
Is Mr. Kringle sad now, Mother?
I'm afraid he must be.
Then I'll write him a letter. Maybe that will make him feel better. I'll cheer him up. Dear Mr. Kringle, my mother says you are sad, and now I'm writing this to you because I want you to be happy again. And I want to tell you I believe all you told me, and that everything will turn out fine. I even believe you'll get me my present I asked for. I hope you are not sad. Yours truly, Susan.
Postman! Postman!
Yeah, lady?
Would you mind taking this letter?
Oh, sure, lady. We're going straight down to the post office now. Okay, Louie, take it away. Well, what do you know, Louie? Another letter for Santa Claus. Hey, here's a new one. Instead of the North Pole, this kid's got it addressed to Kris Kringle, New York County Courthouse.
Well, the kid's right.
Huh? Oh, yeah, sure. They got on trial down there. He claims he's Santa Claus, and the DA claims he's nuts.
Hey! Hey, I got an idea. How many Santa Claus letters we got down there in the dead letter office?
Oh, who knows? Maybe 50,000. Bags and bags all over the joint. You mean...
Yeah, Frankie, why not? Wouldn't it be nice to get rid of them all, wouldn't it?
Ah, boy, oh boy, look, Louie. Soon as we get off to the post office, we go and see the supervisor. You know something? I bet we get a promotion.
And since the defense has failed to submit one shred of proof that Kris Kringle is the one and only Santa Claus, and since tonight is Christmas Eve, I ask your honor that this hearing be terminated without further delay.
I protest I do have evidence.
5 minutes ago, you said you didn't.
Well, during Mr. Mara's oration, the bailiff handed my client the evidence I referred to.
What evidence?
This letter, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Kringle?
It's from Susan Walker. She believes in me. This letter means more to me than anything in the world.
That letter, Your Honor, was delivered by the United States Post Office, an official agency of the federal government. Now, the Post Office Department is one of the largest business firms in the world. Last year did a gross volume of over $1 billion, and this year...
Your Honor, I'm sure we're all gratified that the Post Office is getting along so well, but what bearing has it on the sanity of that man?
My point is that the Post Office Department is a model of efficiency. Furthermore, the laws of this country make it a criminal offense to willfully misdirect mail or intentionally deliver it to the wrong party.
The state of New York is second to none in its admiration of the Post Office Department. We're very happy to concede Mr. Gailey's...
For the record, Mr. Mara?
For the record. Anything to get on with this case.
Thank you. Your Honor, that letter just received by Mr. Kringle is positive proof that
One letter is hardly positive proof.
I have further exhibits, Your Honor, but I hesitate to produce them.
Come, Mr. Gailey. Put them here on my desk.
But, Your Honor, I
said put them on my desk.
All right, boys, bring them in!
Your Honor, what is this?
You empty those mail sacks on Judge Harper's desk. Bring them all in or be fined for contempt of court.
Now, just a second here. We'll do it, Your Honor. True rain, true sleet, true courtrooms, anything. We deliver.
Mr. Gailey.
Your Honor, every one of those letters and every one of those mail sacks is addressed to Santa Claus. The Post Office delivered them. Therefore, the Post Office Department, a branch of the federal government, recognizes Kris Kringle to be the one and only Santa Claus.
Since the United States government declares this man to be Santa Claus, this court will not dispute it. Case dismissed. And for heaven's sake, get this mail out of my courtroom.
So, as soon as I got out of court, I came straight to Macy's to see you, Doris.
Oh, Kris, I'm so glad you won.
Well, we're having a big Christmas party at the Brooks home tomorrow morning. I'd like so much to see you and Susan there.
We'll be there, Kris. Oh, Kris, couldn't you come home now and have dinner with us?
Now? Tonight? Me? My goodness, Doris, it's Christmas Eve.
Oh, I forgot.
Alfred, look. Look who came all the way out here to the home just for our Christmas party.
Kris, it's Mr. Macy.
It's Mr. Gimble, too. Excuse me, Alfred. Miss Walker and Susan have to leave now, and I want to see them before they go. Forgive me, will you?
Susie, darling, you got so many presents.
Not the one I wanted. Not the one Mr. Kringle was going to get for me.
Well, what was it?
It doesn't matter. I knew I wouldn't get it, but I at least thought he'd tell me why.
Susie. I'm sorry, Susie. I tried my best, but...
You couldn't get it for me because you're not Santa Claus.
Susan.
You're just a nice old man with whiskers like Mother said.
But I was wrong when I told you that. You must believe in Mr. Kringle and keep right on doing it. You must have faith in him.
But it doesn't make sense, Mother.
Faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to.
Huh?
I mean, just because things don't turn out the way you want them to the first time, you've still got to believe in people. I found that...
Hello, Doris.
Fred.
Mr. Gailey! Mr. Gailey!
Merry Christmas, Susie.
Gosh, you get here just when we're ready to leave.
Oh, I've been here.
Oh.
And if you're ready to leave, I'll drive you home.
Before you go, here's a map I've made for you. You'll miss a lot of traffic. About 4 miles south, you'll see Ashley Avenue. Now, that's the street you want, Ashley Avenue.
Thanks, Kris. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Fred. And to you, my dear. And to you, Susie.
I believe you, Mr. Kringle. I do. It's silly, I suppose, but I do.
I don't understand it, Fred. The map Kris gave definitely says Ashley Avenue. We've been on Ashley Avenue now for at least...
Stop the car! Oh, stop the car, please!
Susie, what is it, darling? What's the matter?
There it is, our house!
But Susie!
What in the world?
Well, she's running into that house.
Well, at least there's no one home. It's brand new. It's just been built.
Yeah, for sale, it says. For sale.
What on earth is that child up to?
Susie!
Hey, Susie! Come down right now. You know you shouldn't run around in other people's houses. That's strange.
Well, I'll say.
No, I mean this house. I've seen this house somewhere. I know I have, maybe in a magazine or...
It's our house, the one I asked him for, the one I asked Mr. Kringle for.
Mr. Kringle?
Mother, I know it is. Oh, you were right, Mommy. You were right.
Susie.
Mommy told me if things didn't work out the first time, I have to keep believing, and I kept believing. Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus.
Now where are you going?
In the back to see if there's a swing. Oh, there is one. There is one.
You told her that? About believing?
Well, you told me, Fred.
Yeah, the sign outside. For sale, huh? Well, we can't let her down, can we?
I never really doubted you. It was just my silly common sense.
Well, it even makes sense to believe in me now. I must be a pretty good lawyer. I do a wonderful thing like take a little old man and legally prove to the world that he's Santa Claus. Now, you know that couldn't be true, but...
Fred.
What's the matter?
There, in the corner, by the fireplace.
Oh, no. No.
It can't be. It couldn't.
A cane. Kris's cane?
It must have been left here by the people that moved out.
Maybe. Maybe I didn't do such a wonderful thing after all.
Before our stars return for their curtain calls, Helen Sorrell wants to tell you about the wonderful way to decorate your Christmas tree as we promised at the opening of the show.
You can give your tree that fresh from the woods look by covering it with real-looking snow you make yourself from a box of Lux Flakes.
So many people have asked for the Lux recipe for Christmas snow that we'll repeat it again tonight. Listen carefully.
Take a large box of Lux Flakes. Gradually add 2 cups of lukewarm water. Ooh. And beat with an egg beater until it has the consistency of thick whipped cream. Ooh. Then, with your fingers, spread the mixture over the branches of your tree. Ah. And that's all.
Try it on your mantle decorations and table arrangements, too. It gives them a very professional look.
And makes the whole house look more Christmassy. Now, I'll repeat that recipe.
Take a large box of Lux Flakes. Gradually add 2 cups of lukewarm water and beat with an egg beater until it has the consistency of thick whipped cream. Then with your fingers, spread the mixture over the branches of your tree. And that's all. Let the children help. They'll love doing it and love the snowy tree.
Before we meet again in this theater, the most joyful day of the year will have come and gone. There are, in our time, as in every time, a few foolish men who deride the spirit of Christmas, but in every country and in every time, they are overwhelmed by those who find in it the hope and happiness of the future. By those of us who believe in our hearts that there can be peace on this earth and goodwill among all men. On behalf of Lever Brothers Company and all of us here at Lux Radio Theater, I wish all of you the happiest of holidays.